What's the weirdest thing you've seen happen at a friend's house that they thought was normal? When I was in high school, a friend asked me and two other friends to his house for dinner. His mom served homemade bean soup, which was very good. Toward the end of the main course, she brought out chocolate cake for dessert. She cut each of us a slice and plopped it into our bowls in which we each still had about an inch of soup. Us guests exchanged puzzled glances, but the family dug right in, so apparently chocolate cake soaked in bean soup was an ordinary thing for them. When I was like 10 or 11, a new kid moved into our town and started at our school. I was always super nice to new kids because I moved a bit and changed schools a bit and knew how hard it was. We made friends and he had me over for a sleepover. He decided to show me a Polaroid picture of his mother having sex with a dog. I was just like WTF dude, let's play Nintendo. My childhood best friend lived with his grandparents. His grandfather was a clockmaker, he mostly restored them. Their large two-story house's walls were covered in old restored grandfather and cuckoo clocks. Each one had a small sticker with a number so he could keep track of them all. The highest number I saw was over 700. I would say 25% of them were wound, so every hour you were treated to a symphony of clocks. I didn't appreciate it when I was a kid, but those clocks were fantastic pieces of workmanship. Friend's amputee grandpa demanded to watch everyone in the bathroom when they went. He had a mirror so he could watch you. When I didn't fall for that, they put shampoo in my hair so I'd have to take a shower. Noped the F out and called my mom. Friend didn't think it was odd. Edit. Lol 3 wholesome awards. Thanks edit. I think my fac edit didn't save. 1. Did I tell my mom? No, I did not. I felt embarrassed about it. Point 2. Who put the shampoo in my hair? My friend did. Point 3. I am a woman. And here's some random information. I remember my friend's dad having to piss with the door open so that grandpa could watch him do it. I also remember the grandpa pissing into a jug in front of everyone. I also remember crying and saying I wanted to go home and they wouldn't let me call my mom, so I kept crying until they finally gave in. When I was in elementary school, there was a family in the neighborhood that had a son and daughter same age as my brother and me, so we played a lot in the street. The few times my mom met the kids, she went on and on about how polite and well behaved they were because they said please and thank you and may I and called the adults Mr. and Mrs. and all that. We were decently behaved kids, but we didn't have formal manners like that, just never had those habits. For weeks, my mom was all, why can't you be more like the C kids, and you should say please and thank you like the C kids, and those C kids are the most polite and best behaved kids I've ever seen at so the daughter had a birthday party and I went. Someone gave her a Cabbage Patch Kid animal, and I want to say it was a bunny, when she wanted a dog, I can't remember. But she lost her shit. She unwrapped the thing, then threw it across the room, stomped her feet, started crying, screaming about how it was a stupid gift because it wasn't the animal she wanted. Her mom and grandma were trying to console her, hugging her, telling her it's alright, we'll take you to the store. Anyway, in a twist about a year after they'd moved in, the mom and kids got in their car in the middle of the night and fled. Turns out the dad was an abusive guy and she'd planned their escape. Made me wonder about those manners, the temper tantrum, the adult response, etc. You never know what's going on with people. I didn't see this happen, thank fucking God, but here's the story. I had recently moved to a new town before my freshman year, little shithole in Kansas, and made a few good acquaintances, but was still learning who's interesting and who isn't, etc. This one kid, I honestly don't remember his name, seemed cool. He was into video games and stuff, we hit it off, ended up hanging out at school off and on, so, one day, he asks if I want to come over after school, and I couldn't for some reason, probably work, I don't remember, he says to me that's fine, I'm sure my neighbor will come over, and we'll end up watching movies and jerking off anyway. I laughed, thinking he was being facetious, or whatever, but he doesn't laugh, he does not. Laugh. Looks at me and turns his head a bit, I'm serious, my dad's friend comes over and we watch movies and jerk off, I thought you might want to. I did not continue the conversation, I never spoke to him again and I also never said a thing about it to anyone. Looking back, I wish I had pretty sure that dude was being molested and looking back and knowing what I know now, the fact that he was so matter of fact about it, I'd bet money he had been molested most of his life. Fucking terrible. I was maybe 12 and visiting a friend who lived deep in the woods for the first time. They had 2 outdoor dogs, and one got free and ran over and attacked the other. The dog that got bit was quite a bit smaller and was definitely injured. My friend's dad came out with a pistol and shot both dogs. It changed my life forever. I was raised in a house where dogs are family. My friend and his family didn't seem fazed at all. Edit. This really took off, so I guess I can elaborate a little more. This happened around 1994. I grew up in an extremely rural town, so when I say my friend lived deep in the woods, I'm talking like they were completely off the grid backwoods. One of the dogs was my friend's, and the other was his sister's. They were chained up outside 24/7 and just not treated as pets at all. I believe the logic behind the shooting was that the sister's dog was too injured to recover, and my friend's dog had killed his sister's dog. So it was only fair to shoot them both. About 30 minutes after the whole thing happened, we all ate dinner together like nothing happened. My parents picked me up shortly after and I cried the entire way home. We only hung out at my house after that. During the summers when the college dorms closed, I'd go stay with a friend and his family a few states over. Spent a lot of time listening to his nice old dad talk about his interests, like the history of every single tree on the entire property, because it seemed like the least I could do to thank him for letting me crash in his house and eat his food. Eventually my friend got a dog, which was allowed to roam freely around the countryside because his dad insisted that was normal. She wasn't spayed, also because his dad insisted that was normal, so she wound up having puppies. Just two, so my friend kept them, they grew up, and now he had a small pack of dogs, roaming the area and coming back to the garage to eat. I forget the details, but one day the dogs came home covered in chicken feathers or blood, some obvious signs that they'd been eating someone's farm animals. So that nice old dad brought out a gun and shot all three dogs dead, acting like it's a perfectly normal and unavoidable part of dog ownership. My friend was really torn up, obviously, but was expected to act like it was all perfectly normal. I don't exactly think of his father in the same way anymore. One of the first times I met my husband's family, I was over at their house and husband gestured for me to sit down and be comfortable. Their house was really very cluttered. Not quite hoarder cluttered, but close. They had a couple of couches facing each other and then some other chairs. Not knowing the rules, I sat on one of the couches, which had a lot of stuffed teddy bears on it. OMG, you would think I had sat down on live bears. There were probably 20 to 30 small, medium stuffed bears on this couch. Husband's mother and twin brother both visibly reacted, as if I had damaged the bears. Not antique bears either. That was when I was told that the couch was for the bears and only for the bears and that no one was allowed to sit on the bears' couch. Just the bears. The bears all had little beaded necklaces with their names on them to tell them apart because they were all the same brand and style. Slept over at a friend's when I was around 10. She was the only girl in her family and had 5 brothers whose ages range from like 4 to 15. Everything about my friend's room sleeping situation was normal. But her brother's room was bizarre. They shared one big room with 3 bunk beds. Each mattress a fitted sheet, a pillow, and nothing else. No top sheets, no blankets, no comforters. Also, the boys didn't have pajamas. They all just slept in the clothes they had worn that day with their shirts tucked into their pants and belts on, too. Their room didn't have a door and neither did their connected bathroom or their closets. Turns out they were fundamentalist Christians and the boys' setup was meant to prevent masturbation. When I was younger I was best friends with 2 brothers from Jamaica. One of the days they asked me to stay over so we could play some Atari. After we finished playing outside. We came home 12 minutes after their curfew, so their dad, who was extremely calm, told us to sit in the living room. I sat in there with my 2 friends and they were super quiet, which was a bit weird, until their dad walked in with a belt and beat the living shit out of them. I shit myself, not literally, because I thought I was in for a beating, but he didn't hit me, which was a huge relief. After the beating their dad, asked if I would like some carrot juice. Well, my friends just went back to normal and set up their Atari like nothing happened. I was sat on the sofa, wondering what the fuck just went on. This crazy baddie lady who was our neighbor when I was a kid. We lived in a small town that still had party lines even in the early 90s and fortunately, per second, for us we were on her party line. She was rude and nasty and always hogged up the phone. Anytime she'd be on the phone, which was often, and you tried to pick up the phone she'd yell at you to get off the phone. Yet if you were on the phone and she wanted it, she'd barge in on your conversation and yell at you to get off so she could use it. Why we tolerated it, I never understood. Her son was in my class at school. She also was crazy religious and didn't believe children should have any toys. They could only play outside, never inside. So of course, that meant he'd always come over to our house to play. Of course we didn't tell on him. His mom was rude, not just on the phone, but even just going into her house you could tell she was a very rude and miserable person. I cannot ever recall a single pleasant word she ever said to anyone. No one liked her, at all.